But I had friends who went to the Canary Islands that weekend, Scotland, Italy, Paris, of course, and then somebody went on a walking tour of England. I was dating a girl who was back here in the States, who I've now been married to for 28 years. I wrote postcards to her from each of the locations that my friends were going to, gave each of them the postcard and said, mail this on Saturday. So she got postcards from all over Europe with me claiming that I was in the Canary Islands, I was in Paris, I was, telling her what I was doing and who I was doing it with.
It was pretty basic. I remember though, we did a few of the school trips. One of the trips I took was to Berlin, and I remember I was like 19 and it was just me and 4 of my friends, and it was like, I was so excited because I was like, I did this independent of my parents. I just felt very cool that I had done that and very independent at the time.
I actually traveled down to the south of France by myself, and that was the first time I'd really, like you were saying, travel without parents. Kind of had it in the back of my head. Well, as long as I can get back to Harlexton, it'll be fine, right? So like if anything went wrong, I'm like, it'll be fine if I can get back there. And I remember talking to my professors. It was a Italian, French, and Spanish class, and I'm like, it should be fine, right? It should be all good. My high school teacher had hitchhiked across France. I'm like, I'm just taking a train, so it should be okay.
Right.
They were all kind of looking at me like, are you sure you really want to do that?
And when I was there, of course, if I needed my parents, I could call them on the phone easily, right? I was 4 hours away from home by car. When I was in England, there was no way to call, back to the States. You really kind of had to plan it ahead of time. There was no internet. I couldn't email them. My only communications with my family at the time was through letters. There was a feeling of independence. Yeah, I had the school to rely on, but I was on my own.
For 3 weeks, I went to 17 countries on my own. Part of that was I was supposed to see a girl who was there from Turkey. I was going to meet her. I couldn't get a hold of her. We missed each other. So then I decided, well, I got to move on from here. And I'm just traveling all through Istanbul and Belgrade and all of these different countries, just basically going to the country, getting the currency, then buying a loaf of bread and some water, and then okay, now I'm good. Now I can get some food and lodging and all that.
At the end of the semester, we did a trip to the Soviet Union, which was still the Soviet Union at that time. It was a scary time because a few months earlier, a kid named Matthias Rust had landed a plane in Red Square and been arrested. He had flown in from East Germany. And, there were Americans who were being held as spies. So, you were always kind of leery about it. 2 things happened. One, some friends and I were on Dzerzhinsky Square taking pictures of the KGB building when a Russian policeman stopped us. And, we're all going, oh, great, what now? When he found out that we were Americans, he started to laugh. It turns out he was just stopping us for jaywalking. But then a couple days later, I was walking on my own over by Red Square, and these 2 kids came up to me and asked me if I wanted to exchange money, which of course is illegal, or if I wanted to trade them anything, and I didn't really, and they walked off. And then a Russian major came up to me and started to question me. And it's December at night on Red Square, and this guy's going, who were those boys? I'm like, I don't know, a couple kids. What did they want? I don't know. I couldn't understand their accents. And he kept, it was probably for like 2 or 3 minutes. It felt like about 10 or 15 minutes, just going over and over, trying to get me to explain that, yes, these kids wanted to trade on the black market with me. And eventually he got bored and went away.
We had to go to Paris and we had to go to Rome as part of the class. So we went up to Florence for the day, did all the shopping, all the kind of good stuff there, and all the museums. She really, really wanted to go to Pisa. So we hurry up, we went over to Pisa, but then unfortunately we missed the last train from Pisa back down to Rome. So we hopped the last train then back to Florence. And so funny enough, we found a couple police officers and we tried to explain the situation to them. So all they did was just like hang out with us all night. They took us to a club. They basically just protected us all night. And then at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, when the train station was back open, they dropped us back off at the train station. We caught the next train back to Rome.
I could tell you that I was there this semester. Will and Kate got married. The gear that they had in all the stores was like insane. Like they had toenail clippers with their faces on them. Any plate that you could imagine. I mean, it was crazy. I did see Patrick Stewart, this one guy who was a theater major, and I kind of thought he was like being dramatic. He was like shaking, came out of the bathroom. He was like, I just saw Patrick Stewart. And I was like, no, you didn't. And he came out and I was like, oh my God, he is much shorter in real life.
Who is this? And somebody, he looked at me, he said, a king. And I was like, king? They don't have a king in Hungary. And I asked someone else and he said, Prince. And I was like, Prince Charles? And sure enough, Prince Charles and Lady Diana were at this church. I had a 35 millimeter camera and I took everything. Lady Diana at the time and Prince Charles were both there. I got within 30 feet and I was up on like a light pole above the crowd taking these pictures. I'm like, Diana! And I swear, you know, I would have had the best picture of her, and I pressed the thing and rewound and I opened it and exposed the whole thing, and by the time I got it in and was able to try to take another picture, they were already in their limo.
My room, we hosted what was called the El Kabong Hour, which was drinks in our room, and everybody threw their Coke bottles against the radiator. We finally got called down to Mrs. Culpin's office on that one. And we've got the Chinese charge d'affaires coming. She's like the number 2 after the ambassador in China's embassy, and she's coming up to hold forth on some subject. I don't even remember. She gets there. She's snotty. She's nasty. She won't. They have Irish linen sheets for. She had brought her own silk sheet. She was just a pain in the ass. So we snuck in and super glued her at night to her silk sheets.